Hey everyone, and welcome to this NaN template demo where we're going to see what is JSON. Now, I've built this template to help beginners, just like when I started, understand a basic concept, which is JSON. I've built now over 300 workflows and more than 120 of them run in productions for businesses like my own and others. And JSON is something that people external to development or NaN don't really understand. Now, this core concept is really illustrated by this template that I've built for you. You can download it for free on NaN's website, and I'm thrilled to say that it's actually been featured in the workflow for NaN, which is really awesome. Now, let's dive into workflow. This first node is where you can execute the whole workflow. So we'll click right here to execute everything. Now, these nodes have just run, as you can see by the green border right around them. And if you click on the node, this is where the data panel actually appears. Now, there's two parts to every node that is very essential to understand the data. Here is the input panel. This panel actually shows you what came into the node. It's a bit like baking a cake. Here it's the ingredients, and the output panel here is the actual cake, what the node actually produced. Now, to understand the concepts of JSON, I've built this workflow to show you every different data type that might not be familiar to you. JSON has its own way of calling a text, a number, or a list, which we'll see together today. Let's look into that first node. It's the key and value node. It shows you the first concept, which is an actual key with its value. And you can switch between these different views in the output table. Now, I'll show you. The schema view is the first one. It's the blueprint view. It shows you what the data contains in a summarized way so that you can understand the data structure. Now, the other view here is the one I prefer, actually. It's a table view. It shows you a simple sheet-like, Excel-like format that shows you what the data is, and it will show you everything inside it. I prefer this one usually. And the last one is the JSON view. This is the raw data. JSON is actually in this format in the real world, meaning the computers actually receive this. Now, we'll use it to show you what the JSON actually contains, but I recommend using the table view most of the time as it's better for readability. Now, you understand what a key and a value is, meaning a key is just a label and the value is the data. If you go into the next node, the string node, this will show you what text is. Text is called a string. It's the exact same thing. And as you can see in the JSON view, as text, this is really important. The text here is surrounded by double quotes, as you can see right here. Now, the double quotes tell NaN and any machine, this is actually text. We'll see now in the number node why this was important. I'm still in the JSON view, and you can see right here, there's a number, and there's no double quote. Meaning this tells any machine you can do operations on this number, like addition, subtractions, etc. And you can set those data types right here in the set node. This is called the set node, and when you create a field is a key and a value, you can tell exactly what the value should be. Is it a string, so a text? Is it a number? And other data types that we're going to see right now. Now let's move on to the next node right here, the Boolean node. Boolean is basically simple true and false. It's a light switch on and off. It can be used for example, for switch conditions to say if it should go one way or the other way. Now, for the same thing in the JSON view, you can see here, true has no double quotes. And this is only possible because the format true or false tells a machine in JSON it's on or off. But if you wrote on here or off without the double quotes, it would not work because on or off are not recognized by the Boolean values, only true and false. If ever you have any doubts about what I'm saying, download the workflow and look at these little written notes that explain in detail what we're actually talking about. Let's move on to the null node. This is a bit special. Null here is another value that does not need double quotes around it. This basically tells JSON this is nothing. It's an empty value. It has no value. It's different from the 0 value, which is close, but it tells 0, it's a number, and the empty value. Empty value is actually a string, which is a text. A string will have only double quotes right here. Let's edit it to show you. If I go here and replace null by single double quotes, this is an empty value. Let's look in the table view. Look at that. It writes empty. Now I'll unpin this execution to show again the null value. The array node will show you how lists are rendered in JSON. Now, lists are very interesting. Let's switch to the table view, and lists are actually a simple collection of a few items. For example, the first element here is a text, the other one is a number. Let's switch to the JSON view to see that. So arrays are written with those little square brackets. This in JSON tells it's a list of multiple items. The first element here, as you can see, is text. The other one is a simple number, false, then a boolean number, a boolean value, and then null, which is the latest thing we saw, which is empty. Now, something to know is that in arrays, indexing is a bit special, meaning it doesn't start with 1, but with 0. You can see this right here in the schema. 0 actually points to the first value. The first value starts with the index 0, and it's absolutely normal. Don't get tricked by this later on, because this might be a bit easy to forget, let's say. Now let's go to the last data type, which is object. An object is simply a collection of multiple sub-values. It contains keys and values. It contains those labels and data. You can see here it's written in actually JSON. So an object is just a label that contains as data in nested JSON. The nested JSON is very useful to organize in neatly organized little packages. So your data here, as you can see, is shown as JSON, but with a bit better formatting in the table view. Now in JSON, you can just see a JSON right here with a label, and inside this label, the data is another JSON. As simple as that. Now, why is this useful? Let's see how to use expressions and this is where the magic of it happens. In NaN, you can use those expressions with the double curly brackets, as you can see. And to use an expression, you need to make sure that this field is actually ticked as an expression right here. It can be fixed, which is basically text, and it can be an expression which will render dynamically the value here of this field. You can see the dynamically rendered value just under it, which is really useful. And as you can see, you can dynamically pull here anything from the previous node using $ and JSON. This is the easy way to pull value. So you can see from the input, which is right here, this is the input data from this node, and you can drag and drop anywhere in here to see the changes of the dynamically data you imported. Now, if you want to access the data from previous nodes, not only the previous node, but nodes that came before this one, you can use directly the node's name using a little thing called a rendering. Now, if you want to go further than that, you can use the node's name here to access this node's data. Item here just says the matching item. This is a bit more advanced. You can just use .item for now. And then .json tells it, now this you need to access the JSON data. And inside this you can access any property from this node. And the number node, let's see it right here in the input panel. The number node has JSON example integer. Integer is just a simple number. It means number. And float means a point number. Now if we wanted to access this one, this is exactly what the expression would look like. We access the example integer from that node. And now the value, as you can see, the dynamically rendered value is 10. This is beautiful and exactly what we're looking for. This is how you can dynamically input data into any field. Now let's move on to the final exam. This is where we pull every single value from previous nodes into this one. And this will show you how to access previous nodes' data until you have this final little output with everything we saw so far. Now, if you have any doubts, I strongly advise that you check out the template. It's free. You can download it for free on NN's templates, and it's very useful. Meaning you can play around with the data and see for yourself what you understand and what you don't understand, which is absolutely fine. And if ever you want to give me some feedback about this workflow, don't hesitate to go here to open up a little form that will allow you to directly send me a notification. And if you need coaching or assistance, this is where you should click. And if you need consulting, this is another form that I built exactly for that. Now, thank you so much for looking at this video. I hope the template will be useful for you, and happy automating.